Hello, highly sensitive person, and welcome to this week's episode of the Highly Sensitive Club. This has been a very personal topic for me over the last few months, and it's also a pattern that I have started to notice with my highly sensitive clients and other HSPs that I've been talking to while I've been out and about interacting in the world. There will be times where you will want to temporarily choose to slow down, add more rest and downtime to your schedule, or to change the frequency of something to accommodate a season of fullness or even lower energetic capacity. Sometimes this is something really short and temporary, like you have a very full day, and so the things that you might normally try to squeeze into your day, you decide to push back to the following day or a couple days out so that you can give yourself the capacity to fully show up to what's currently going on. It could be a week or a couple of weeks. If you are a female who cycles, then you have different levels of hormones throughout the month, which means different levels of energy throughout the month. That might mean that there are weeks where you hit things really hard, you accomplish a lot, you take care of a lot of tasks, and you're very energized and motivated and achieving. There will also be weeks where you want to rest more. Maybe you do more reflection work or processing because that's the time of the month when it makes more sense. On a broader scale, sometimes there are just seasons or times in life where your capacity changes or your situation changes and your schedule can adapt in order to accommodate those changes either externally or internally. Typically, life transition periods are a perfect example of this. Moving requires a lot of logistics. It requires a lot of decisions, which also means it requires a lot of energetic output for you as a highly sensitive person. Your energy is already at a premium. So making all of those decisions, handling the logistics, and putting your energy into those things will require you to change your cadence or change your schedule in order to accommodate that short-term move. This could also be something around the school year. If you're a teacher, or if you have kids, or if you have grandchildren who are a big part of your life, those seasonal transitions around when kids are in and out of school can create times when you need to change the frequency or change the cadence of something. If you're spending a lot of time with people temporarily, maybe on a vacation or a trip or during the holidays, you might need to up your rest or your alone time or your downtime in order to balance out those higher capacity times with other people. This could also even be during some health changes or during relationship turbulence. Sometimes things at work might shift or change, or a change in your time or your money might trigger something like this. Your energy will change from day to day. It changes from week to week, month to month, season to season, and year to year. Your goal is to simply be intuitive and tapped into your own energy levels. So many people think that their situation dictates how much energy or willpower or motivation they should put into things. But ultimately, it's your internal world that will dictate how well you handle transitions like this or seasons of change or downshifting. This isn't a weakness. This is intentional reprioritizing. It's decluttering and organizing. I want you to think about this as taking a step back so that you can choose how you want to proceed with no right or wrong answer here. However you choose to proceed is going to be the right thing for you based on the information that you have right now. It's the best that you have right now in this moment. And even in hindsight, you might realize that you've learned something from this experience and you might try it differently if something like this happens again. But right now, you're just making decisions based on what you have right now, the information that you have, and the current situation of your life. This is part of healing hustle culture and needing to be productive to prove yourself as worthy and enough. One of my clients, Dana, recently during a coaching session had this beautiful thought that I wanted to share with permission. I'm having a human moment. And as a solopreneur, that means my business is having a human moment too. That really resonated with me. And I immediately thought I have to share this with other people because this is so true. Sometimes we hold ourselves to these ideal standards, or we hold ourselves to the standard of our one-time ideal self. You hit everything on your to-do list, you do it all perfectly, the timing matches up exactly how you planned it, and everything falls into place. And that one time when you were able to make that happen suddenly becomes the gold standard against which you measure all other experiences. And if you don't measure up to that ideal, perfect experience that one time, you might measure yourself as not being good enough or putting yourself in this all or nothing pass fail situation where if you haven't reached that level, you haven't accomplished anything at all. This is about acknowledging that you are a human who fluctuates. You're not the same from moment to moment or from week to week or year to year. It is in our nature to change, and it's in the nature of the world to change around us. Our ability to navigate those changes is really what determines how satisfied we are with our life, how happy we are in our relationships, and how resilient we are to situations in our lives. This might include decluttering the idea that everything is equally important, that your social time or your family time is equally as important as your work time, which is equally as important as your rest time, which is equally as important as all the other projects that you want to do in your life. There will be times, and again, it could happen from hour to hour or day to day, when you change your priorities just for that day according to what you have going on. There might be days where family or friends are your top priority. There might also be days where work and your projects are your top priority. There will also be days where rest and self-care time and recharging or simply being alone and relaxing are your priority for the day. It's okay for those things to change, and it's okay for you to check in with yourself from time to time to see, is my energy going towards the things I really want it to go towards? I'm going to give you a very concrete example from my life, which is changing the cadence of these podcast episodes being released. If you caught the announcement from last week, then you already heard that these podcast episodes are now on an every other week schedule of publication instead of a weekly schedule. I started the podcast in January of 2024, and I was excited and inspired. I was looking for new clients, and I had this backlog of ideas that I was so excited to share, which is why I started out with 3 episodes and then continued to publish pretty much weekly without any scheduled breaks for the last year and a half. I have had moments where I have had to put the podcast down for a little bit. When I had my car accident last year, around the holidays, things can get a little bit witchy. Earlier in the year when I had COVID, I had some moments where I was not taking care of the podcast as frequently as I wanted to, but I have never really taken a break since I started in over a year and a half. As I was looking at the podcast and thinking about the amount of time that it goes into being a one-person podcast creator, producer, editor, publisher, etc., in addition to doing all of the marketing and the newsletters and promoting it and sharing it with people, the podcast takes a lot of time. And even though I love doing it because I reconnected to my why, that I'm here to share information that I think would be helpful and useful to you, because it's not just helpful and useful in my life or in my clients' lives, but these are themes and patterns that I see across many highly sensitive people's lives. I want to share that with you because it might help you make a better decision for yourself, something that helps you change in the direction you want to. It might help you transform into a better version of yourself that you've wanted for a really long time. My ability to contribute to the conversation around high sensitivity and to tackle all of these topics as they come up in my conversations with my highly sensitive clients or with my highly sensitive loved ones, that's exciting. And I want to continue to do that. I also recognize that making myself adhere to a schedule that I determined a year and a half ago may not be the best thing for the season that I'm in right now. I'm making some changes in my business, and I'm going deeper with my clients in each of their packages. A lot of them are getting fantastic results. They're adding more productivity into their lives and making progress on things they've been wanting to do for years, like cleaning out spare bedrooms, starting new businesses, getting new clients, building furniture, tidying up their spaces and their lives in general. There have been some really cool changes that have been happening, but I want to take it a step further. I want to really build a vision of what they're looking for and then figure out every single session how we can get there. In order to do that, I started to take a look at my schedule. I'm smiling because I'm seeing patterns in myself that I recognize, that I frequently get myself into. And when I recognize the pattern, it becomes easier and faster to pull myself out of it. It's the exact same thing I do in my coaching sessions with clients. I started to recognize that there were commitments that I had made, sometimes years ago, sometimes within a few months ago, sometimes last week, that were starting to clog up my present. It was starting to feel like I was expected to cover checks that my past self had written. I don't know about you, but I frequently get myself into the pattern of following through on commitments that I've made a long time ago, simply because a past version of me made those commitments and my present self got into the habit of continuing them without continuing to check in with the purpose and the meaning for why I'm doing them. This means that creating content and the type of content that I create came under scrutiny. This means that networking is something that I started to consider and see what's working and what's not working. Sometimes it's just information. I have a previous client who had over a terabyte of information that was just sitting on an external hard drive waiting for her to go through it. All of that backlog starts to weigh on you, and you recognize that there's clutter going on. There are things that need to be cleaned out, but you keep putting them off and you keep putting them off and you keep putting them off. I went through one of my external hard drives that I've had since 2019. So it's been 6 years at this point, and I kept adding things to it without pruning it and without curating it. Going back through it, I cleared about 150 gigabytes of information that I didn't need anymore. Things that I had been keeping from previous versions of myself that I was finally able to let go, to declutter, to release in order to make more room for new things. Whether you are cleaning out areas of your home or your digital space, or you're cleaning out your calendar, maybe you're cleaning out your money situation. Maybe you take a look at your bank accounts and you find you have hundreds of dollars in subscriptions that are coming out on auto pay every single month, and you're not really using a lot of those subscriptions anymore. There might be some things that you need to declutter in any of these areas. There might also be a lot of clutter going on in your mind, which is typically what creates all of this clutter in all these other areas of your life. For me, I got very concerned with the system and the habits, and I got so far ahead of my content, I don't even know exactly what I have anymore because there are so many episodes. I was so focused on the growth and the creation, which is incredibly inspiring and exciting. But the whole purpose of the podcast is to help other people. Without actually knowing what I've created and being able to share it with people when the need arises, I'm not using the content to its best extent. I'm not really honoring my mission and my intention behind the podcast, which is to know when I can help someone and to be able to offer them some value when they need it. I also, and maybe this will resonate with you, have been comparing myself to people that I admire who are further down the road than I am. I had an episode a few months ago about increasing my capacity, and I am really proud of the work that I have done in order to increase my capacity around creation, around the number of client sessions I can do and provide really high quality value. I've been really proud of my capacity to exercise more and to move more, my capacity to sit with hard emotions and to really feel them. My capacity has increased. And comparing myself to business owners who make millions of dollars or people who have already gotten on the other side of their exercise journey and who have those habits. Comparing myself at chapter 1 or 2 to someone's chapter 15 or 16 has not been serving me. Maybe this will resonate with you as well, because it's very easy for us, especially in our social media culture, to compare ourselves to everybody else's great experiences and to miss or to not see all of those invisible, difficult, challenging moments that are common for everybody. And someone else's capacity in one area might be very different from your capacity in that same area. So holding yourself to the same standard as someone else, even if it's someone that you admire, even if it's someone who inspires you, that might not be the best thing for you in this moment. I want you to consider this as you're thinking about changing the frequency of something that you do. I want you to reconnect to your purpose and your intention behind why you are taking this action in the first place. If it's eating healthier, you don't just want to eat healthy for the sake of eating healthy, although yes, it does have its benefits. But if this is something that feels like it's been hard for you to do in the past, and you go in and out of diets or different nutritional lifestyles, if this is something you're really putting a lot of intention and attention into, I want you to reconnect to your vision and remember why this is so important to you. This will help you get out of tunnel vision and getting caught up in the process or the system of it. And it will help you make bigger, more meaningful decisions for yourself about why you want to keep going. It keeps you inspired and it keeps you encouraged to keep track of that vision and that dream of what you want and your real purpose behind something. Not as much about the process and the habits. Of course, those are important. That's how you accomplish the thing or manifest the thing that you're working towards. You have to take action towards it. But more than that, it's so easy to fall into habits that don't serve us anymore simply because that's our brain being efficient. When we form habits, it's our brain saving energy. It wants things to go on autopilot so that we can spare our energy for other things that need more of our attention. And it bears looking at those habits and those patterns that you've developed from time to time. Maybe you do it quarterly. Maybe you do it a couple times a year. Maybe you do it once a year. Whatever that looks like, paying attention to what you're doing with awareness and deciding, does this still serve me or does this not serve me anymore? Even if it served you at one time and it was useful and helpful and you enjoyed it, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay that in this time, in this part of your life, in this particular season, it's not helping you anymore. This might look like changing your exercise routine and downshifting a little bit. So instead of aiming to go 5 days a week, maybe you downshift to 3 or 4 days a week. Maybe you're in a season where just going to the gym once a week or twice a week is still better than not going at all. It's so easy for us to get into this all or nothing black and white thinking that we either have to continue doing our habits exactly the way we have been, or we just stop altogether. There was definitely a part of my brain that was thinking, we could just not do the podcast anymore. We could just tell everyone we're not going to do it. And I thought, I don't want to stop doing it. I don't want to stop sharing things with people. I don't want to stop giving value to highly sensitive people who might need this message today. Because inevitably, I always get some feedback from every single episode that somebody got something great out of it. I want to continue to do that. However, that doesn't mean that I have to either continue to do it weekly or I have to stop doing it altogether. I consider doing it every other week, and I also consider doing it monthly. And I determined for myself with my intuition combined with my logic, which one feels more exciting, which one feels more doable, and which one feels like it's still honoring the intention that I'm setting for myself while honoring my energy levels and my current capacity. Is it honoring my current priorities? And the answer was every other week, because it's still consistent, but it's literally half the amount of time and energy that I was spending doing weekly for the last year and a half. Maybe you downshift your spending in one area so that you can stabilize or upgrade your spending in a different area. Maybe you downshift the amount of time that you spend on particular projects so that you can focus on different projects, either temporarily or so that you can take on additional tasks. For those of you with kids and grandkids that you are a caregiver for, maybe your cadence changes at certain times so that from day to day, you can continue to rest, but do the things that you want. If you like going to yoga classes, or if you like going to art classes, or if you still like going out to lunch with a friend or going out to eat with your partner, it's okay to continue to do those things even while you're still caregiving. Maybe you shift your focus in terms of getting someone in to babysit the kids once a week or considering an after school care. Maybe you decide you're going to spend X amount of days having really great quality time with your kids or your grandkids, and then you're going to tap someone in your community to help you. Maybe you form a group with other parents where you trade off who's watching all of the kids, and then they can hang out together after school once a week. Maybe it means you call on siblings or grandparents, or you tell the kids that you need more time to yourself so that you have some recharge time and you can balance both of those responsibilities. Ultimately, what I'm asking you to do is to determine where you have clutter or where you have mental bloat so that you can determine, is this something that I want to continue to do, or is this something that I want to shift and adjust? Sometimes that does mean you put something down. Sometimes it does mean you stop going to those dance lessons for a little while. Sometimes it does mean that you change your TV subscriptions because you want to focus on reading and journaling and meditating more. Maybe it does mean that you stop things temporarily. Maybe it means that you just shift how frequently you do it. And I want you to consider too, any areas of your life where you might be rushing to things. Are you rushing between things and feeling like your schedule is very busy and full and there's no room for anything new? Or are you rushing to take action on something, hoping that by achieving a result, then you'll be able to rest? This could look like, I need to work really hard for the next month and spend all of my time working so that I can have a week off. Oftentimes, the thing that we want from having that money or that time or whatever that goal is that we're aiming towards is something that we can actually have right now. It could be that you want some relaxation and some chill time. And you think that the vacation is the way to do that when you can actually build it into your day. You might think that the money is so that you can make a big purchase, but whatever the big purchase is, whether it's for excitement or you want to feel good or you want to have something new and exciting in your life, you might be able to achieve that without having to spend the money, or you can achieve that in little steps along the way. There's always a nuance to this, which is where we highly sensitive people really thrive. Where can you find the both and instead of the either or? Where can you find a compromise between the way that you've been living now and the choices you've made in the past, and where you want to go and what your current priorities are? I don't want you in a situation where you feel like you have to cover a check that a previous version of you cashed, because sometimes that can be a decades-old version of you who's no longer relevant to who you are now. I want you to examine for yourself what kind of thoughts and beliefs might be coming up that are creating this feeling that you need to rush or you need to hurry because you're impatient for the result. When you get the result, that's when you think you get to feel the way you want to feel. You can actually find ways to feel that way right now. So look out for thoughts like this. I need to achieve my goal as soon as possible. I need to make that amount of money, get to that time goal, have that conversation, check these tasks off of my list as soon as possible so that I get what I want. I need to fix this as soon as possible because I'm unwilling to feel uncomfortable until that point. I can't let anyone down. I can't disappoint someone. I can't annoy them. I can't have them thinking the wrong thing about me. I can't break my streak. I can't break this habit. If I stop now, then I'll never start again. I should be doing more. I need to do more. I'm being lazy. I'm not showing up for myself. I'm not doing enough. Until I have X, whatever it is, I'm overwhelmed, stressed, disappointed, not resilient. Our brains have the best of intentions and they want to motivate us. Negative emotion feels like it's going to push us forward. But frequently, when we get into those negative emotions, they create a spiral and a cycle of keeping us stuck. The thing that we actually fear creating is the thing that the negative emotion then creates. We're a self-fulfilling prophecy. Think about how you feel when you think those thoughts. I should be doing more. I feel like I'm being lazy. I feel like I'm letting myself down. That probably creates feelings of guilt or shame or embarrassment or frustration. You're judging yourself. Think about the actions that you take or you don't take. Typically, when I feel bad, I either fight or flee from myself. If I'm fighting, I push through, meaning I do the things just for the sake of doing them, but they end up being lower quality results or lower quality action items instead of the high quality results or the high quality tasks that I really want to be able to do. If I push through, that typically means I'm sacrificing my mental health or my emotional health or my physical health. Or I might flee, which means I avoid the task, I distract myself, I procrastinate, I come up with lots of great reasons and excuses that I don't want to do something, Or I find justifications, meaning people or things that feel more important or urgent at the moment, to avoid doing the thing that feels really hard. Think about this for yourself as well. Whenever you feel those heavy emotions from these thoughts, and that weight feels like it's settled on your shoulders or you're judging yourself, think about what you do or don't do. Do you actually move towards the thing that you want, or do you beat yourself up and quit and then feel like you have to start all over again? Do you get less done than if you gave yourself a clean slate and just started fresh? Do you get less done than if you just gave yourself the opportunity to be a human and continue forward, even if it's not perfect? I recognize that might be hard for you, highly sensitive person, because we have very high standards for ourselves. But just think about the result of what's happening when you're taking these actions and pushing through, and then you're paying for it later by having to take an entire day off. Or when you're procrastinating or distracting yourself, and then you feel like everything's urgent when it doesn't need to be. This all stems from your beliefs about yourself that you need to be doing more, or that you need to rush, or you need to achieve something in order to feel the way you want to feel. I want to offer you some new thoughts, because the results of these thoughts, and therefore the emotions and the actions, are not helping you. When you tell yourself, I'm being lazy, typically you reinforce that and you don't do the things you want to do, which then makes you feel like you're being lazy. If you tell yourself you should be doing more, you might actually take on more tasks, but by doing that, you clog up your calendar and you don't actually move forward towards the goal you want to move towards. Your results are a reflection of your thoughts, and you have control over that. Here's the little coaching segment of today's episode. By thinking new thoughts, you show up with different energy. When you're not judging yourself or feeling stressed or overwhelmed, typically it's easier to take action and to move towards your goals, being more forgiving and graceful for yourself, letting yourself have a human moment and still move forward anyway. Both and. Some of these thoughts sound like, my relationships are important and deserve time and attention. I'm as important as everyone else, and I get to take good care of myself. I don't have to earn rest. Rest is my right. I have a body and a brain, and my body is a valid part of that equation. If something doesn't go as planned, I don't throw it out the window. I continue on and figure out what I can improve for the next step. I know how to be intentional. I am capable of balancing my priorities. I'm figuring out how to make my new normal work well, for me and for others. All of these thoughts are thoughts that either I've thought or my clients have thought. When we think these thoughts, suddenly we feel way more graceful. That heavy feeling starts to go away and we feel lighter. When we feel lighter, whether that's hopeful or energized or excited or peaceful and calm, then it becomes easier to take those actions, to take care of the dishes that have been sitting there for 2 days, to put the furniture together that has been sitting in the living room waiting to be assembled for months, to take the break, and then to follow up with those 10 people and reach out and make those connections, to make that hard decision that you've been sitting on for months and months, even just a small step forward. The result is you prove to yourself that you're right, that it's okay to rest. You can both rest and get things done. You can balance your priorities, and you do know how to be intentional. You prove to yourself and provide evidence that you know how to balance your relationships with yourself and your relationships with others. You prove that you're a great steward of your money and you know exactly how to use it and save it well. You prove that you are the master of your time and you know exactly how to schedule it and how to use it for your highest benefit and for the benefit of others as well. You plan your self-care so that it's actually rejuvenating and maybe even helps you increase your capacity. You're not just trying to make up for a deficit from the rest of the week. You're actually feeling energized and inspired and full going into the next week. These are completely different results, and they start with your beliefs. They start with getting yourself out of that all or nothing black and white thinking. They happen when you get into the both and. How do you honor these priorities, but shift your focus a little bit? How do you change the balance or the ratio of your rest and your activity so that you can do both of those things? How do you continue to show up and take action, but not doing it from a place of pushing through and forcing yourself that you have to pay for later, but by doing it at a pace and in a style that makes sense for where you are right now? How can you take yourself out of those judgment cycles and out of those negative emotions and continue to show up much more neutral or maybe even positive? I wanted to share this today because I have been thinking about changing the podcast cadence or showing up to it differently for months now. I have been processing this for a really long time, and I'm sure you can relate to that highly sensitive person because that's typically one of the things that we do when something is really important to us. When I made that very aligned decision to change the publishing cadence to every other week instead of weekly, I felt really at peace with that decision. I still am excited to show up consistently and share things with you. I'm excited to give you things that I think would be useful and a different perspective to inspire you, to encourage you, and to mentor you to change your life for the better. And I'm also saving half of my energy, which means that I get to have both. I get to continue to show up consistently for you and to have these connections and these conversations. And I get to have my energy back so that I can put it into those new client processes. I can really tap into their vision. I can take my coaching to a new level and really lean in with my clients. I can read more great books, go back to yoga classes, continue to walk while the weather is getting so beautiful here in the fall. By taking a step back and slowing down, you actually set yourself up for success by getting rid of the bloat, decluttering what's not working, and clearing your bandwidth so that when you move forward, you actually open up more space for new things to come in. This is when you can tap into more creativity, more inspiration, and continue to move towards things that you may have stalled or stagnated on. If you're having trouble moving forward on something you really want to do, instead of beating yourself up and telling yourself that you're being lazy or you need to just expand your capacity or you need to figure it out or you need a new tactic, consider whether you might just be tired. You might just be at your energetic capacity because you've designed your life in such a way that you're at full. Until you shift something else, it's not realistic right now for you to add something else on. That doesn't mean that you can't challenge yourself. It doesn't mean that you can't grow your capacity to add more things on. It doesn't mean that you're not capable or resilient or powerful, because you can still choose to do all of those things. And I want you to look inward, check your intuition, check your body, check your energy and see, do you really have the energy to do that thing? Or do you need to adjust it in one area in order to redirect it into another area? It is perfectly okay to readjust your priorities, readjust your energy allocation, and readjust your time so that you can put it into things that are the priority now. And just because something is the priority now doesn't mean it will be the priority forever. Your priority will change again in the next season or in the next transitional moment, and that's okay as well. Each of those times is an opportunity not just to be caught in the stress or the bittersweet feelings of something changing, but in the opportunity to grow and turn it into something even better than what you could have imagined otherwise. Any of these transitional moments are ones in which you can assess your priorities, assess your energy, and decide intentionally in this moment how you want to live and what you want your future to look like. You are making the best decision that you have with what you have in this moment, and your future self can make that decision as well to choose something different or to readjust. It is always okay to change your mind. It is always okay to examine your priorities, and it is always, always a good idea to tap back into your original intentions and your original purpose in doing things so that you can tell if you're still aligned or not. If you're not, it's okay to declutter it. It's okay to let those things go, even temporarily, or to downshift and to do things in a slightly different order or in a slightly different frequency. You get to have both, and you can do all of the things that you want to do. You just change the ratio a little bit, highly sensitive person. You can do this. I believe in you. And I hope this episode was helpful for you. If you've ever been going through a tough life transition, or you've looked at your calendar and your priorities and realized that you're still going through the motions, even though it doesn't work for you anymore, it's never too late to change your mind, and it's never too late to start improving and transforming now. One of my favorite quotes is, the best time to plant a tree was 25 years ago. The next best time is today. It is never too late to give yourself that clean slate. It's never too late to look inward, and it's never too late to move forward with more intention and purpose each day. You've got this, highly sensitive person. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for listening. If you're ready to take what you learned today to the next level, head over to Stephanie Linn, that's LINN.com, and book a consultation call to get started. I can't wait to see you there, my dear HSP.